I mean, as you know, there are a lot of barriers to artists in greater Minnesota. And
Mm,
so we have the unique opportunity to provide a space for some of those artwork uh, and pieces that you may not otherwise see because there's not
mm.
as much opportunity.
Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. I'm your host, Willis Stout.
Hey, Grum here. It's a beautiful day on April 12th here in the solarium.
And I am your host, Jacob Bases. Today with us, we have the brand new executive director of the Carnegie Arts Center here in Mankato, Charlie Leftridge. Charlie, if you could please just introduce yourself to the audience, tell us a little bit about how you came to be in this position and what you want to do over at the Carnegie.
Sure. Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Charlie, and I'm the ED over at the Carnegie. I'm actually from Southwest Minnesota, so this feels very much like home. I just started in my role here in January of this year, so still very, very new, but we're making some cool stuff happen. We're really excited about all the potential over at the Carnegie. And yeah, just a little bit about me. I have a background largely in music. I'm actually a composer by candlelight, do a lot of choral music and chamber music, that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, prior to this, I was over at the Grand Center for Arts and Culture in New Ulm, serving as the executive director there. And then prior to that, I was with the Mankato Symphony as the operations director. Still love going to the symphony and seeing all the crazy stuff that they're up to. And anyway, so yeah, I was at the Grand for about 2 years, and then just hopped over this year at the Carnegie, and really looking forward to helping guide some conversations to change. And I don't know, I'm really excited about the potential there.
Sure. What kind of changes were you able to make happen at the Grand in New Ulm? I've certainly seen some more programming there before. And what, if any, of those things that happened over there do you think you can bring to Mankato?
Yeah, I mean, my big motivator in the nonprofit sector is community building. I love, especially like community outreach or like anything that like helps you imagine the identity of an organization outside of the walls. And so we did a lot of cool stuff like Downtown Poetry Path, bringing live music and a presence to like the farmers market, and just more programming that like leads people to the building, not just things that are happening inside. And so that's part of what I'm really excited about with the Carnegie too, is that we're really kind of imagining right now who we are outside of our walls.
Mm. What's it been like getting to know the Carnegie? I guess preface that. Have you had much experience with it prior to getting the job, or are you kind of discovering the space and
Yeah, and I love that you're using the word discovering, because I think that's kind of where we're all at right now. It's this beautiful historic building built in 1902, and it's been a community asset for such a long time. But I think, like me, many community members have maybe been there once or twice. Maybe there's been like an exhibition or some kind of program that's brought them there. But to really understand and see just how much the space has to offer, I guess I didn't even really know that there were artist studios there
I didn't
prior
know
to
that.
starting. Yeah, and it's a huge service that, and we've got some very talented artists there. There's also a gift shop and an arts education space. So I mean, it has a lot to offer, and we're just really examining right now what that can look like. But to answer your question, I had been there for a show before, but I didn't fully understand the scope until suddenly I was in charge. So yeah.
yeah.
What do some of those current programs look like? Because I would basically agree with what you said entirely. As a person who I try to be as engaged with the arts as possible, because it's like part of the brand is that we try and represent those things.
Yeah.
I have always looked at that place as either like I feel like I'm underutilizing it or it's being underutilized, and I don't know which one it is. So like what did it have music programs before? Like how were things being organized there?
Yeah, so actually, there's a long-standing history, particularly in a couple of different services. So there's a rotating exhibition that happens in the gallery spaces. There are 3 gallery spaces. The gift shop, which has been kind of a long-standing asset, and all representing local and regional artists, which is really cool. And then, of course, like I said, the studio spaces for working artists. And I think that because it's a membership organization, if you were somebody who knew what was going on, you knew what was going on. And the under the previous administration, there was a lot of advocacy for artists, which is awesome. I mean, that's what really motivates me as well. But I think like outreach and marketing weren't as much of a priority, and so I think it was definitely a space that was utilized in a good way for artists if you knew about it. And so now we're kind of in a position to reimagine the space as a community asset that is something that you know about and that's something that welcomes you into the space. We're really trying to think about it as more of an inclusive space. And even with the membership, like what is membership? And we're kind of re-examining those words and their meaning.
Yeah, what is membership, and what are some examples of that type of advocacy that had gone on before?
Absolutely. So membership, the way we look at it is just anybody who is supporting the organization. And so there's some benefits to that. Of course, like we send out information about upcoming events, and we're trying to like think more deeply about how to make that a meaningful experience. And so there's tons of membership opportunity. And by that, I just mean that members are people that also kind of have a voice at the table. So we want to gain that community feedback. And one of the best ways we can do that is by inviting members to come at least once annually to come and kind of share their perspective, can kind of update them on what's going on in the community and in the Carnegie and how we're addressing any gaps in our programming. And then, I would say for me, like one of the biggest things that the Carnegie can do is be an advocate for artists and more specifically connecting community to artists. And I think that's something that I think can evolve a little bit from the previous model. Offering space for artists to work is huge and really important. But I think that there are more things that we can do to kind of amplify the artist's voice and connect them to an audience. And that's kind of what I'd love to see happen in those spaces.
So, how do artists who are either members or non-members interact with the Carnegie? Like, if they want to get involved or show their work, or
Yeah, so one of the I guess prerequisites to having an exhibition at the Carnegie is that you're a member. But our member fees, we try to keep very low just to create greater access and equity. And so, we have the opportunity for people to submit an application to do an exhibition. We have 3 gallery spaces. So a lot of times there might be more than one artist represented, which is really cool. And then in the gift shop, we have about 40 artists at any given time having their work sold there, which is really cool on consignment. Yeah, and so for non-members, I think it's still an open space. You don't have to be a member to come and experience things. It's just that membership opens opportunities for you to be part of the annual member show. You can submit work for that, or put in an application to do a full exhibition or a joint exhibition.
oh, cool.
Are there?
Yeah.
Does that mean that most or all the exhibitions are like local or regional artists, or do you find that someone would just get like if they wanted to show there, they could join from the cities and
Sure.
bring it down?
Yeah, and that's actually a great question because that's part of what we're really focusing on as we look at our mission is that we're trying to promote local and regional artists. I mean, as you know, there are a lot of barriers to artists in greater Minnesota. And so we have the unique opportunity to provide a space for some of those artwork and pieces that you may not otherwise see because there's not as much opportunity. And so I think it's really good also for the community to have the opportunity to experience art that maybe comes from a different place. And so the gallery committee certainly considers all the applications we receive, and especially a really interesting or high quality thing that comes from afar, we wouldn't necessarily say no to, but the priority will always be local and regional artists. And there's so much talent here. I mean, it's like how can you not?
Yeah. Are there what's the process look like for maybe where you're at right now and looking forward for the gallery space? Like, do you have artists lined up for the summer? Are you taking applications still? Are you looking to next summer? Where are you at kind of with the programming of those spaces.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things that's a bit of a change from previous administrations. We're really working towards having an annual calendar of events. And so the rest of this year is actually totally booked, which is really exciting. We've got some really cool stuff coming up. And we're right now reviewing applications for next year, all of 2024 and even into 2025. So
Cool.
if people are interested, we would love to see applications from local artists.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that you're like excited about with this summer, or people could maybe be generally aware of and look forward to?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a really cool lineup of artists coming. I'm particularly excited this summer for a joint exhibition between Cultivate Mankato, which is an early child care center, and Vine. So it'll be an intergenerational show with a lot of different kinds of works. And I'm really excited because last year was our first year representing Cultivate, and they really took over the space. I mean, it was just like chocked full of artwork from some just really talented kids. And I think to have that presence of Vine there as well, you'll get a nice range and variety of artwork. And then also, like I said, that intergenerational piece I think is really, really fascinating to explore. So definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, that sounds cool. What's it like? What's it like coming into a role like that? Like, what's the onboarding process for an executive director look like?
Well, it's interesting. I will say, it's a brand new board, and we're actually in the throes right now of kind of thinking deeply about the organization and all of the. I mean, I geek out over it, but the boring side of it with like bylaws and articles of incorporation and codes of conduct, and all this stuff that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, for me, it's been really, really a great time to start here because it's almost like not starting with a blank slate per se, but just really being able to help guide some conversation towards best practices and
New chapter, maybe.
yeah, exactly. And so I don't know, all of my previous experience really equipped me, I think, to kind of step in and be with the board in this process in a really meaningful way. So that's been really cool. And then also, the Carnegie is a historic building, and consequently, there are a lot of quirky issues with it. And so we're doing some exploration right now in terms of historical preservation, some grant processes, and just thinking about what could this space look like now that we have the ability to think about it differently. Yeah.
Is this like part of the larger Carnegie? Like this like you hear about the Carnegie, and I don't know about things. So there's like big Carnegie. Is this its own thing? Is it
like a historic Andrew Carnegie, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so he was a very philanthropically minded person and had a real passion, especially for what I think he's most known for, the Carnegie Libraries. So this was, when it was originally built, the public library, the primary library for the county. And so anyway, we are one of, I don't know, I was trying to remember the number off the top of my head, at least 800 libraries across the nation that he helped fund. And anyway, it's really amazing, and you can find them all over the place. There's one in St. Peter that actually I believe is a salon. Many of them are still functioning as libraries, but just as many are have been repurposed in some way. And so we're really lucky to not only have a really beautiful building with rich history, but we're trying to preserve some of those historical pieces as much as possible.
Sure. So the other part of my question was mostly, is it associated with any other arts guild, like through that name?
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, nope. We're
okay. So it's a standalone.
Yeah, and we do business as the Carnegie Arts Center. Our technical designation is the Mankato Area Arts Council. That's kind of a mouthful. So
yeah.
So we use the Carnegie Arts Center. But yep, we're our own entity, and we serve the Mankato area and southern Minnesota region.
I know with the space specifically, having been in there and seen it, that it presents opportunities for artists to show maybe different works or works it's very large. You got some big walls, some different spaces. What about that, I guess, can you speak to that at all, or what excites you about all that?
Yeah, well, and that's part of I think what really excites most people about that
Mm.
space is, we've got these huge like 14-foot walls in
Yeah.
this like cylindrical shape. It's very unusual, and
Mhm.
it lends itself really well to really dynamic shows. And we were talking actually just before this about installation art. I mean, it
Yeah.
lends itself to some site-specific artwork that you can't necessarily do in smaller venues. And so
Mm.
I think that's part of what really kind of sets us apart is that we have the ability to show kind of larger pieces and maybe pieces that rely on a larger space to maybe more organically grow out. We actually just recently had the MSU art students doing
Mm.
a giant exhibition, and it was crazy to see like all the things suspended from the ceiling and going from wall to wall. And I don't know, and that's part of what I love. It's like this space that really allows artists to explore like how they want their art to be represented. And
Mm.
actually right now we've got some of these gigantic pieces, and I was even just thinking today, where else could these go if they weren't outside? I don't
Mm.
even know. So yeah, we're really fortunate in that way to, I don't know, kind of give artists a lot of opportunity to explore how they want that art to be
Mm.
represented in the space.
It sort of reminds me of useful constraints in a way, and maybe in this case even intimidating constraints.
Totally.
But like,
Yeah.
yeah, having part of your task be like, how do I occupy this space in a way that works for what I'm trying to communicate? Because it'd be different. Like you could imagine the same show in the 410 and the Carnegie, and the perception would be very different. So I think that
Totally.
as
And
an artist,
they're
you'd probably want to show up in
Yeah,
a,
and there's such big advantages both ways, right?
yeah.
Like, there's some beautifully intimate pieces that would be dwarfed in
Mhm.
our main gallery, for example. And that's another reason why I love that we have the ability also between the main rotunda, which is the big gallery space, and then we've got the fireside and then the Hope Cook gallery, that are smaller
Yeah.
spaces. So we can kind of have some flexibility in that way too. But I will say sometimes it is challenging when you have this gigantic open space to make it
Yeah.
feel like a cohesive body of work. So yeah.
Yeah, wow, I can't imagine trying to fill some of those spaces. I've seen a couple examples where one artist has used
Greg
the whole building.
Greg
Mhm.
Wilkins put that big picture of
Yeah.
Trump up there.
Yeah.
And that was sky high. It was
And
certainly a use of the verticality of the thing.
I think Shelley Caldwell had some big like thing over by the fireplace.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
like
sure, yeah.
I live like
Oh,
on
those that
a
like
street, like yeah.
Wasn't-
I
it
It
wouldn't
was
know how to
glass,
describe
wasn't it?
I think it was paper.
Was it?
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
oh no, I remember what you're talking about now.
Something.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I've seen a couple different examples of that, and it's intimidating kind of comes to mind, but also a little bit like inspiring too, and like opening, being able to
Yeah.
set your imagination free and imagine what really you could do with the space.
Totally. And that's part of why I loved having some students in with our most recent exhibition, because for many of them, we got the feedback that it was their first time even doing an exhibition or presenting their work in any kind of public way. And so it was really cool because they kind of got that opportunity to say, okay, how big can I go with this? Or like, how can I do this in a way that isn't limiting to what I want to say or what I want to represent? Right. And so, and so then one of the professors was like, just so you know, it's not always like this. But for me as like an artist myself, like sometimes limitation is helpful because it gives you parameters and you can kind of think a little more clearly. And so all of that to say, like, I think a lot of the bigger exhibitions that we've had or people that have been doing it a long time or that have larger works to fill that space. But that said, we have an annual member show, which is awesome. Any member can contribute to that, and so we get a wide variety of things that really fills up the space. And we're actually bringing back the juried art show this year, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. And Yeah, I don't know. You never really know what you're getting either, because
Yeah.
we get these awesome applications from local and regional artists, and they'll have, a concept and maybe some work samples,
Mm.
but that only gives you a partial picture, right? And
Mm.
so then they're in the space, and I don't know. And that's part of what I love about the Carnegie too, is that it itself is art, right? And
Mm.
so people get in there and they're like, "Whoa, how can I, use this to my advantage?" And I don't know. It's a really cool place to be, and kind of explore like how the work gets put together.
Or do you plan on activating the space for any other like performance or non-visual arts?
Yeah, and actually, that's part of the conversation right now with the board is that I think there's some real opportunity. We know too that there's a need for more performance art
Mm.
spaces in Mankato, and I think the Carnegie lends itself in that way too. And so we're kind of lightly trying that a little bit
Cool.
with the upcoming art crawl. We're going to have some live music.
Oh, cool. I didn't know
Um,
that. Who's playing?
Yeah, it'll be Sarah and the Hooligans.
Sick. I'm in a
Yeah.
band with her. She's
Oh,
great.
nice. I know
Yeah.
Sarah's absolutely the best.
Yeah, she rules. And she's in the symphony, so you've probably known her
Yeah,
well.
that's actually how I met her.
Cool.
Yeah, and so so I love working with Sarah
Heck
and
yeah.
all those guys. They're so good. But then too, for the receptions, we've been trying lightly to have opportunities for live music to happen there,
Yeah.
and that's always a really interesting conversation because I'm a big believer in not just shoving a musician in the corner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right, but you have to. It's an interesting balance because you also want it to be about the work that's being displayed, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
anyway, we're kind of like exploring what that looks like and touching base with some musicians to see how we go about that effectively.
Cool.
Mm.
Yeah. So anyway, to answer your question, yeah, I think that there's a lot of potential
Cool.
to do more in there. We're going to have the Good Thunder reading series coming up.
Fun.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to explore there, and I would love to see it be, like I said, more of a community asset.
Yeah.
Because I think we have the ability to. I mean, our space is our biggest asset, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like,
Yeah.
hey, come use our space.
It seems like an awesome spot to do an open mic, so
Mm.
that might be fun.
I'll pass that along to the board.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Something you said just a little bit ago about you're an artist yourself. What led you down the path of getting into this kind of work? Was it like an interest in the arts? But now it seems as if you've taken these kind of organizational roles repeatedly. How did you
Yeah.
first get involved with the arts, and then second take it upon yourself to do all this organizing?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a musician by trade forever, and that's kind of how I wandered into the nonprofit sector. I got my master's in music composition, was kind of in a position to look for work, and I take commissions. So I mean, I keep that part of myself really active, but I knew like I had also this kind of like big passion for like community engagement and specifically like arts advocacy. And so I kind of stumbled into some of that work with the Mankato Symphony and just fell in love with it. It was actually a bit of a surprise to me because I thought, okay, well, you need a job. It's arts related. I can still compose on the side. And then it was just this beautiful like mixture of everything I love.
Mm.
And so that kind of scaffolded me into these different roles where I just realized that I had a lot of skills in terms of kind of that administrative side. I love grant writing. I just love to write as well. So I don't know. I'm just like a little bit of like a jack of all trades in that way. And it's not that I'm the most amazing person ever. It's just that I just genuinely enjoy the work. And so part of what I love about the Carnegie is it just checks all of those boxes. I get to work with artists. I get to promote artists' work. I get to, be engaged with the community. I get to be in a cool historic building that I also get to help, preserve. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting because I think for me anyway, and I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I feel like my creative self is I don't know, kind of bolstered by these other things that I do. It's not like one or the other, or like I'm kind of splitting time. It's like I don't know. I feel motivated and excited by the work that happens at the Carnegie, and that translates into kind of my creative spirit as well.
Is you with the composing, is there any outlet for that you, like if someone wanted to hear the music that you've made, how would they find that?
Yeah, I actually got a commission with the Musicorum. It's a community choir here in Mankato. I actually sang in it last year, and so that was a multi-movement piece for string quartet and choir, which premiered last year. And I've got some of that stuff up on SoundCloud. I'm actually like in the process right now, thanks to Prairie Lakes, getting a website out there, and I'll be selling my own music that way. So yeah.
Do you perform on these compositions often, or do you usually hire out like studio musicians, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I am a multi instrumentalist, and so for some of it, I do just kind of make it happen myself.
Yeah. What instruments are those, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, I'm a keyboard player, so
Cool.
a lot of piano. I love kind of playing with experimental sounds, and so
Sick.
yeah, no, that's kind of my real jam, and do a little bit of banjo here and there. I mean, I'm not
Cool.
amazing at it, but I love kind of
Yeah.
exploring those sounds and
Cool.
sampling them and that kind of thing.
Me and
so.
Sarah play with an electric banjo player,
Oh,
and
nice.
it's weird. It's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. It's like, yeah, sonically so different.
Yeah.
So many like timbre opportunities there. I just
Yep.
love it. But yeah. So and then I do quite a bit of I guess you'd call it like art song writing. So like smaller classical ish compositions. Usually
Like
with my
stingers and things like that?
yeah, for
Okay.
like solo artists. Right now, I'm working on a song cycle for soprano and string quartet, and it's one of the first times I'm not using my own text, so that's always just like kind of an interesting experience too. Yeah, working with someone else's words and trying to honor those, and kind of also explore what they mean to you as a musician. And anyway,
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. So
Is that a prompt, or is that like these are the words that need to get written into the music?
yeah, so I'm using poetry, other people's
Interesting.
poems. Yeah.
And what do you? Sorry, I know this isn't why you're here, and we're just diving way into this.
Yeah.
Just last thing. What do you software do you use? Do you use like MuseScore? What? How do you like to actually do the composing?
Yeah, my composition process is pretty analog actually. I love writing away from a keyboard, writing away from
Sick.
tech. Like I usually have like manuscript paper and I'm just like either on a walk or we're my family, we're big like hikers. We love being outside, and so sometimes I've got the dog or dogs and we're just wandering along and you get like, kind of that idea or whatever, and it's like, okay, I'll write a quick note to myself and then keep walking.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, when I'm to the point where I need to put it together, usually hot on a deadline, I use Finale.
Oh, okay.
And then if there's any kind of like audio component, I use Pro Tools. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's sweet. I always have I stink at writing in staff, so I always have to hum things into my phone when I'm
Oh,
like
I
not
do
at
that
home.
too. You should see. I mean, like, I think I've got like 400 some audio files.
Yeah,
It's
it's-
like embarrassing, but
I don't have quite that many, and some of them I go and I'm like, you guys got to hear this. This is so sick, and then it's me going like, "Meow, meow, 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 meow," and it's like, sorry.
for real, yeah.
Can't quite picture it.
yeah, like even I don't get what's going on. So
You're like, I promise this is really.
yeah, it's so sick. If you were in here, you would be
Yeah.
just freaking out, right?
Yeah. So.
Your connection to Mankato. So it sounds like you spent some time in New Ulm for the past couple years. Maybe.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the area?
Yeah, when I first moved back to Minnesota in 2015, I moved actually in with some friends over in Medelia, just somewhere to land. But I was working here in Mankato and kind of fell in love with it. It was like a surprise to me in some ways. I just finished grad school. I was kind of in that weird nebulous time after you graduate and you're like, oh, existential crisis. And anyway, but like because I love being outside and there's so many opportunities to go hiking and all these really cool spaces to be outside, I just was really surprised. And also I did my master's down in Nebraska where there are no trees. And so it just like, I don't know, I kind of felt like I landed in the paradise, right? And so, but I also grew up on a small farm. And so I love kind of I love the metro, but I like, kind of the smaller town vibe. And I just love like the arts and culture scene here. I think it's just really vibrant. And I've just been really impressed with its growth, and to just kind of have a small part in that has been an honor. So Yeah.
So it sounds like you were just extracted from Mankato for a little bit, but now you're back in force.
here.
Yeah, got 'em.
Yeah. No,
Cool.
New Ulm was super cool. I loved that space. But yeah, it's really nice to be back in Mankato.
Awesome. Like how can people get in touch? How can people support? How can people find out more?
Yeah, thank you for asking. We have a lot of opportunities for people to get involved right now, and a lot of opportunities to hear about how people want to be involved, and that's really something that's really exciting for me. But we really rely on volunteers. You know, we have docent hours. We're open Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays during our exhibitions, and so we always value help if people want to kind of be greeters and talk about the artwork. It's really fun. And then also, like I said, we've got a really beautiful gift shop that also is totally run by volunteers. So always value some help there. But then too, like I said, we have an application open at all times for artists in the community. If you're interested in doing an exhibition, we would love to hear from you. And then too, we've got a lot of really fun opportunities coming up. We're launching the City Art Sculpture Tour on May 20th. We'll be open from 9 to 11 that morning. And we would love for people to come not only meet the artists who are doing the installations, but we're going to have a bunch of blank canvases. So you can kind of let us know, you know, what things you'd like to see in the space, or like what is meaningful to you in terms of arts experiences in Mankato. So we really want to understand, you know, the people that we're serving, and also understand how we can grow into some opportunities to just make it a more vibrant space.
So if somebody's got an idea for the space or something they want to share, can they get that to you by email, or should they go find the suggestion box at the?
We definitely have a suggestion box, but yes, definitely email me carnegiemankato@gmail.com. Swing by. I'm in the office almost every single day, and I love just meeting the people who, you know, care about the space, and would love to just invite you to even just have some coffee. We'll have that conversation. And people can also check out our website and socials for all the upcoming information. So, yeah.
Cool. And you mentioned the upcoming sculpture tour. I guess is that the one that everyone's familiar with already?
Yeah. So it's done by City Art. And it's. I'm super excited about it. That's an annual event. We kind of rotate out those sculptures. My hands.
Yeah,
I mean, that was only one for the whole time. I was like, I was surprised you kept missing it. I was impressed.
Yeah, it's the.
I didn't mean to say everyone already knew about it. I guess I'm curious about. I didn't know there was like a good opportunity to meet the artist before. So this feels like a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, no, and there historically has been an opportunity to do that. We're just trying to be very intentional about it now, to say, you know, here's a designated space. Come on in. We'll have donuts and coffee. You can meet these really cool people. And then to start the tour there, we'll actually have one of the sculptures outside of the Carnegie. So that's really exciting. That'll be new for us. And then, like I said, we'll have some other activities in the space that day too. So May 20th, 9 to 11. We'd love to see people.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah. Any other plugs? How can we find you? How can we find more about the Carnegie, upcoming events, all that good stuff? Now's your time to plug it.
Absolutely. Check out our website, thecarnegiemankato.com, for all of the up-to-date information about upcoming exhibits, as well as other activities that are happening. Like I said, there's a volunteer form there, or maybe I didn't say that. There's definitely an application there for artists, but also for volunteers. We'd love to hear from you. And then like I said, just shoot me an email at carnegiemankato@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. This was great.